The cafeteria of the Galactic Defense Academy buzzed with the usual chaos of midday meal hour. Students from dozens of species clustered around tables, their conversations a symphony of clicks, whistles, and translated speech. In the corner, alone at a table meant for 6, sat Sarah Chen. She pushed her food around her plate, aware of the stares. Even after 3 months, she still felt them. The curious glances, the whispered conversations that stopped when she walked by, the wide berth others gave her in the hallways. "Is it true?" a Vexian student had asked her last week, his crystalline features reflecting genuine confusion. "Did you really command a warship at 14 standard cycles?" Sarah had simply nodded and walked away. What else could she say? That humanity's desperation during the Krell invasion had turned children into soldiers? That she'd lost her entire family in the first wave and had nothing left to lose? That her tactical scores were so high they'd made an exception to every rule in the book? The war had ended 2 years ago. Sarah was 16 now, chronologically at least. Sometimes she felt ancient. "Mind if we sit?" Sarah looked up to find 3 students standing by her table, a Thrin with iridescent feathers, a stocky Dormand, and a human girl she'd seen in her quantum mechanics class. "It's a free station," Sarah replied, returning her attention to her food. They sat anyway. The human girl extended her hand. "I'm Rebecca Torres. This is Kresh and Gorm. We're working on a tactical simulation project for Commander Yelt's class." Sarah didn't take the offered hand. "I'm not interested in tutoring." "We don't want a tutor," Kresh chirped, his translator converting his melodic speech to galactic standard. "We want a team member." "You have a team." "We have 3 people trying to crack a scenario designed for 5, Rebecca said. "And honestly, we're getting destroyed. We've run it 14 times and haven't survived past the 3rd wave." Sarah had heard about Yelt's infamous scenarios. They were based on real battles, famous last stands and miraculous victories from across galactic history. She'd been exempt from the class. Her real combat experience had earned her advanced placement. "There are plenty of other students," Sarah said. "None who've actually done it," Gorm rumbled, his deep voice causing the table to vibrate slightly. "We've all read about tactics, studied the great commanders. You've been one." "I was a child playing with weapons too big for her," Sarah said sharply. "There's nothing glorious about what I did." "We know," Rebecca said quietly. "My brother was on the Kyoto when it fell. He was 19. The silence stretched between them. Sarah remembered the Kyoto, everyone did. 15,000 souls lost when the Krell breached the outer defense grid. "Look," Kresh said, his feathers flattening in a gesture Sarah had learned meant earnestness. "We're not asking because we think war is exciting. We're asking because we want to understand how to think under pressure, how to make impossible choices, how to keep going when everything says you should give up." "Why?" Sarah asked. "Because the Krell are still out there," Rebecca said. "The treaty bought us time, but everyone knows it won't last. And when they come back, we want to be ready, not as hero-worshipping kids playing soldier, but as people who actually understand what it means to defend something worth defending." Sarah studied them. She'd spent 2 years trying to forget, trying to be normal, trying to convince herself that the nightmares would eventually stop. But maybe forgetting was the wrong approach. Maybe the only way forward was through. "The scenario Yelt assigned," she said finally. "Which battle?" "The siege of Proxima Station," Gorm said. Sarah closed her eyes. She knew that battle intimately, had studied it obsessively after her first command. Commander Thrace had held Proxima for 6 days against impossible odds, long enough for evacuation fleets to escape. He died when the station's core breached. "Thrace made 3 critical errors," Sarah said, opening her eyes. "Everyone thinks he was perfect, but he wasn't. His first mistake was assuming the Krell would honor the station's medical neutrality. His second was keeping his best ships in defensive formation, instead of rotating them for hit-and-run strikes. His third was pride. He wouldn't ask for the nearby mining colonies to help because they weren't military." The 3 students leaned forward. "How do you know this?" Rebecca asked. "Because I made the same mistakes," Sarah said. "At Kepler Station. Except I was lucky. Admiral Zhang arrived early and bailed me out. Thrace wasn't. Will you help us?" Kresh asked. Sarah looked at them, really looked at them. They weren't seeking glory or trying to exploit her experience. They were just students scared of a future they couldn't control, trying to prepare themselves for horrors they'd hopefully never face. Maybe that was the point. Maybe her experience wasn't a burden to hide, but a lesson to share. The war had taken her childhood, her family, her innocence. But it had also taught her something invaluable. That survival wasn't about being fearless, it was about being prepared. "Okay," Sarah said, "but we do this my way. No hero worship, no war stories for entertainment. We work hard, we work smart, and we remember that every simulation represents real people who died in real battles. Understood?" "Understood," they said in unison. Rebecca smiled. "When do we start?" "Now," Sarah said, standing up. "Bring your data pads to study room 7. And someone grab coffee. We're going to be there a while." As they gathered their things, chattering excitedly about formation patterns and resource allocation, Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced in 2 years. Purpose. She wasn't just trying to forget anymore. She was trying to make sure others might survive what she had. Maybe belonging wasn't about hiding who she'd been. Maybe it was about accepting it and using it to build something better. She picked up her tray and followed her new team out of the cafeteria, ignoring the stares. For the first time since the war ended, Sarah Chen felt like she might actually have a future worth fighting for.